¿Nos escuchan? Hello, thank you for coming.
Hello.
Hello, Sidi. Hello, Erin. Welcome. Okay, we'll start.
We will start
Right now. So thank you for coming, for joining. We'll be also making the transmission on Instagram. Good morning, good night also for everybody. We are NACO Critical Space. We are based in Mexico City and started in December 2018. And in June in 2019, we decided to move out of Mexico and start this project that it's NACO Errante. That's kind of the same program, but going to other places, to another countries in the world to develop our ideas also. So Nacovid grew because, and it starts because we want to share the projects of our friends that we've been knowing since we are traveling.
NACO Espacio Crítico es un proyecto que nació en Ciudad de México. Ahora tenemos NACO Errante, con el que decidimos salir del país e iniciar un viaje buscando nuevos artistas y colaboraciones. Actualmente estamos desarrollando un Nacovid que se trata de dar promoción y crear conversatorios entre los artistas que hemos conocido.
Yeah, so Nacovid, it's an international performatic talk that we develop to share the ideas with the artists, with our friends, and also to develop some questions that we are thinking about, and so people can share it and artists can develop these ideas and we can grow this. So by the way, also we want to make a blog. We'll share the link now, where we want to make a publication, a kind of book at the end of Nacovid, so everybody can participate. And so about Sidi Chen, that is our first invited. Thank you so much, Sidi Chen, to answer us and to participate with us. And so we know to Sidi Chen because in June, well, the Vancouver was the first place that we arrived. Well, the second place and the first after Mexico, and we were like invited by another people from Canada, from Unit Pete Gallery. She introduced to Sidi Chen, and then we meet each other. And since then, we realized how other projects and we match very well. Then we make a very good friendship with him.
Nacovid Talks es un programa, un conversatorio de performático en línea con artistas de todo el mundo, a quienes se les invitó a plantear un proyecto en torno a la situación que se está viviendo con el coronavirus. En este proyecto se les planteó una serie de preguntas que se sugirieron para tratar, que en base se trata de cómo cambiar el formato de la conversación y en línea y cómo se ha vivido esta experiencia. Así lo conocimos en junio en Vancouver por introducción de Unit Pete Gallery, y desde entonces hemos visto la manera de participar y de generar colaboración. Entonces, sin más preámbulo, pasamos la palabra a Sidi Chen. Sidi start his own presentation, and thank you everybody for hearing.
Thank you everybody to join. We'll be making those translations to Spanish for people that is in other places, as we are based in Mexico. So thank you for the patience and welcome.
Okay.
Thank you. I am fairly nervous. So hi everyone, thanks for coming, and we will also make the recording for those who couldn't make it the whole section or couldn't make it today, since this is a very global event and for the time differences there would be difficulty for people to join. And so I'm Sidi Chen. I'm from China, but now I'm currently living in Vancouver for the last 2 years, and I'm a traveling queer artist. My work is addressing the intersectionality between the body and the environment, both the physical environment and the conceptual environment. And here now I'm going to share my screen. So I'll show some examples of my work before we go into the project, The Oceans Beyond. So are you seeing the screen? Okay, so here's my website at citychain.com. So my work primarily addresses the intersectionality of the body and the environment, such as the wilderness. This is the, I did this project when I was in the residency back in 2018 in the Yukon territory in North Canada, and where we spent 17 days paddle down the canoe trip into the far north of the Canada part. And along the side, I participate and collaborate with other artists in the project. And so also, I also work in urban landscape. So this is an exhibition that just passed, and where I took photos of the construction sites in Vancouver, and then make a photo poetry installation combined with language photograph installation to discuss the urban disparity and also the disconnections between the community, and also how urbanism is reflected through how humanity is reflected through urbanism in the construction. Very literal sense, and also I also very interested in the domestic household. So I make this project called A Room with a Tone to address how the relationship with how the relationship is changed in the domestic environment between people, and also how the domestic structure, labor, roles, abuse, and being reflected in the bigger structure in the society. And also I work in the conceptual environment, like identity, like the queerness, immigration, but my primary interest is how the body connect and disconnect with the environment and the concept, and also how the relationship between the body and the environment are formed or destructive. So to address such a diverse topic, I also use very diverse approaches to address the topics. So I work a lot in performance work, as you might see. Use my body in the performance. So this is a performance I did in a residency in Duncan in BC, where I immersed myself in this creek to as endurance, and it was really cold. And but it's this endurance and escape into the wood to and also the background when you play it, you can hear actually very industrial sound, like the cars and also aircraft passing by. So it has a sense of violence in the audio, but also this very peaceful and whimsical visual as a contrast. And I also use drawings where primarily use very line-based drawing. So everything you see in the screen here is constructed by by single lines, and it's to simplify, and also the representation of the crossroads that I passed by and the life of my traveling experience that I have interaction with. And so to use the line to construct the inner landscape of my traveling experience and the story. And so I also do a lot in photography, as I've shown before, and also some other unique practice of mine is sampling. So I also take waters from different water resources, and I will show you in a bit. And also I make paper as a with a traditional method from China, but with more contemporary ingredients instead of just the woods and the grass. I also use more other material like hair or like found object in the nature, the garbage, and which I will show you in a bit. And about the project, okay, how to so about oh, so many people, oh my goodness. About the project, the Oceans Beyond, it's a project for me to, from my experience as an immigrant in Canada. I've been in Canada since 2014, and I only go back to China once a year or twice or once per 2 years. And I haven't gone back for a long time until just the past December, and where I found this connection between me and my hometown, also the disconnection between me and where I live in Canada. But I feel it's really uncanny because I don't feel that I'm disturbed by this connection. I feel very comfortable with this connection on how disconnected I am to the society in China. I don't know what's the trendy thing. I don't know what the WeChat payment that's really, really trendy there. But I also feel really disconnected to where I am in Canada because I'm a temporary immigrant. I don't have a permanent status here, and I do feel the pressure and the stress that coming up from this identity. So those are both lands where I call home, but I feel this very uncanny and comfortable disconnect. But I want to look into it to seek the comfort and the recognition of the movement that my body has conducted through my experience, and also the dislocation that, where my body is physically at. And so I want to work this project through to talk about the water in the Pacific Ocean, where is the distance that I have traveled close. And I don't think we are going to pause for Spanish translation, but this section will be recorded for later. And if that's possible, we will put out subtitles for different languages, if that's possible. So here I will show you a few. So this project, The Oceans Beyond, consists with 6 pieces of work. And I will show you one of the process, each work, and then the production process. And I will also talk about why there are 6 pieces and then the development of them. So the first one is called the east of the Gallo Islet, which is, I'll share my screen a bit, and which is you can see, you might have seen in the promotion material, it's a video and audio with sound making installation. So you are looking at the film still of the video, where it's on this islet in my hometown that I visited last time when I went back in December, on Christmas Day actually. It's an islet, it's a bit outside of the land. You know exactly when it's a big tide coming down and coming over. So I took my camera and my sound recording devices and ran to the island. I closed the land bridge that will only emerge when the water is gone. So, and then I set up the camera and shoot into the Pacific Ocean for 10 minutes to record the sound the movement of the never-ending wave and the change of the clouds. And while I would be taking my recorder and go to other places recording the sound of the wind. And later on, I add the talk of this from the village that I visited in my hometown, and the talks of people and the native language and the interactions. And I will also be making adding the sound of wind from the recording, also from my own making, and and I will be making wind sound from the seashell. And can you hear me properly?
Yes.
Okay. So as you know, like when you cup the seashell on the ear, they say the seashell records the wind of the ocean, and it does, and it's because some very complicated scientific function that you will hear this echo of wind from the seashell. But I will also be making the sound of the wind from my breath. So if you, I will show you a little bit how it sounds like. The audio might not be the best through the internet, but I'll be using my recording device to make the sound and also recording the sound from the shell to put it together. But this work is the beginning of talking about the perspective and gazing to see where I stand, to meet as if there is two Sidi Chens, one standing in my hometown, the other one standing in Vancouver, and look across the ocean to each other. And so after this East of Gallo Islet, I will make another work called South of Vancouver, where I will take my camera recording device to the South of Vancouver to record a similar project, and also the sounds of Vancouver and story here using songwriting as well. So it's really talking about the positions and the location and perspective where we gaze into the distance to the ocean and the other side of the ocean that we cannot see, but we see through the ocean. It reflects through the wind, the sound, and the wave. And so second project is, I still haven't started making it yet, so I don't have work to show you, but it's called Crab Eater, where I'll be recording myself eating a crab, a whole crab, and steamed, and how to use the very special tools and technique to eat every bit of the crab. Because for me, crab it's a very traditional, I've been learn how to eat crab since I was 5, and but it's this very preserved body that it has the shell on the outside. You need very careful interaction with it to get what you want. So in this case, for me, it's a symbol of memory that's been wrapped by this distance, this hard shell distance, and how I am going to dissect the memory that's being wrapped, lost, and preserved inside. And it's the action of voyaging into the memory and talk about the memory. And from there to start talking about how to heal, how to reconnect, and how to recognize. So the third project is called Aqua, where I select locations and then take waters from them. So far I have over about 100 bottles of water, 100 milliliter water I collected from different parts of the world. And I want to bring the water, this from my hometown. I want to bring the water from my hometown to dump in Vancouver, and also take the water I take from Vancouver to down back to my hometown to because this project is inspired by artist Francis Alice, and I'll share his website here on the chat too. And he did a project called Watercolor, where he collects this water from the Black Sea and transport it into the Red Sea, and to talk about the border distance and the land, and also the diaspora of people, the migrations of people. I put his name on the chat now. And he did this project back in 2010, taking a bucket of water, and which took him about half a year to finish the journey. And so I want to use a similar approach to talk about the water in the relation to specifically the Pacific water in the relation to the border, on how people divide lands to construct identities. But when we are talking about water, this bit of water is exactly the same as the water that we drink, that we see in the river, in the sky, in the ocean. And the body of the ocean has no borders. And all the borderline is a very constructed social phenomenon that we humans do. So so in this case, it also really addressing the distance of identity, and also as immigration or and the disconnection to my hometown. So in this part, I'll be further dissecting the memory and the border and identity in this work. And so the first one is it's still untitled. I'm still looking for a title for it, but it's Stitching of Salmon Skin. That's being taught me by this wonderful lady who is also in the audience today, Jamie Ramsey, where I met in the residency. So it's 10 salmon skin with embroideries on it. So every bit you see on the screen, on the thread part on the leather, and they are actually holes that I accidentally break when I was making this piece of leather. But later I decided to mend it to construct, because it reflects, it reminds me the time when I see the sunrise from the ocean, where the sun comes from the sea, it's still pink, and the sky is still dark, where you can see a waxing moon, a waning moon here, and the star, what we call it the start of the beginning in China, the beginning of the light, and here's the reflection of the sea. So for me, it's real, and I also use my hair to construct the moon as well. So for me, it's a process that's very healing, very reconnecting, and it's a process of mending the memory and the void, the physical void on the skin, but also the void that I feel in the connection, in the relationship with me back to my hometown. And especially when at this few years of traveling, there are many elders in my family has passed away, where I was not able to attend their funerals. So this time when I went back, and I will go to the room where they used to live, and now it's a storage room, and I felt this very strong sense of lost and void, that I know the room has so much memories, and there are a person I care dearly who used to be there, but now it's gone, and what I see is all boxes of storage things, and that's a part of loss in the memory that I am trying to find conciliation with. And the the fifth part is called The Oceans Beyond, where I was using seaweed I found in Chinatown, Vancouver, to sew together with my own hair. I have long hair, if you figure. And also the seashell, the abalone shell I found in my hometown. So I could still show you the image, but I happen to have the physical piece with me. And those are all seaweed from the ocean. and probably imported from China as well. And they are sold by my hair. So this is a process of making a blanket, a quilt, and also for me a paper, because I don't want to use paper to write on top of paper to make the documentary of an experience, but instead I was making a paper to show the process and then the memory. I also make similar works before in addressing the wilderness and the domestic environment. You can see on my website at sidichen.com. And also you feel free to connect me through email later if you want to chat further. I will post my email website in the chat in a bit. But to sew this piece of blanket or paper with seaweed and my hair and the seashell, the abnormal shell that I found in my hometown. They were on the dinner table. I just collect them, the food scratch. And I want to construct again this ocean as a reconnection between me and those two lands, and also the ocean as well, because I use a lot of bodily material and also my body to do the performance and the work. So in this case, I use my hair, where I've been collecting for very long time. This is one of the 3 bags of hair I have. It's a mess. I know it's really, really messy and disgusting, and you have to scratch the shower tap to pull them. It's okay. I can handle it. But it's this very bodily material that I want to use to reconstruct these bodily connections in the memory, in the physical, and also the time. And so seaweed comes from the ocean, is very literal. And I am constructing seven strips, 7 time zones, where it's between my hometown. It's between the island of Gallo and also Vancouver. There are 7 time zones, which is the time that I lost that between at both locations. And also it's the time that I have come across the ocean to realize where I am, to realize what I want to do, to realize where I stand and who I am. So that's the reconnection piece. And the last piece is still untitled. It's a performance piece where I will be putting a big installation of sands. Those are the same from my hometown on the beach. They are as soft, they are as fine as silk, and they are as white as silver. And I'll be mixing the sand with other sands and dirts that I found in Vancouver, and to build this installation where I'll set a mirror in the front and the chair and few chairs on the sand, and I'll invite people to step on the sand to construct a painting on the sand. And then that way they will take the sand from my hometown back to where they come from, back to the city, back to their village, back to the land. And I hope to, through this process of making a mixed ground on my land and where I am in Vancouver now, I will, and also let people take away my lands. I want to, through their step, through their movement, I want to through their movement to make this place my home as well. So now I'm not seeking more disconnection. I'm seeking the reconnection and the reconciliation of the distance. And on top of the sand, I also put down another the squid shell. You will see inside the squid they have a bone, a white one, and which look like boat, and that will be a part of the installation as well. So why do I particularly want to talk about this project in this time with NACO? Because I want to address the Asian diaspora and in the age of the COVID-19. So COVID-19 experience for me has been really, really long. I was in China when everything happened. So I was in total lockdown in China for 2 months. And then I came back to Vancouver I came back to Canada on March 12th, 3 days before Canada crossed the border. And I've been mostly home since March. So by now, a quarter of my year has been staying inside and in a in a very family and domestic environment, which also offered me a very good opportunity to reconnect with my family and my hometown. And we have a big family with 11 people in lockdown. It's a big experience. And so it offered me a time to connect again with my family and also the society in China, and also come back to Canada to experience this pandemic as a immigrant. So Asian diaspora is a very communal and also individual experience, because especially from my hometown where we have a lot of hills and mountains and water, but we don't have much land. So it has been a tradition for the people in my hometown to go over the sea to find life, to seek for another life. So a lot of immigrants from all over the world, we all speak the same language called Hokkien, which forms a very tight community for people from my hometown. And also at this time, we will see, at the beginning of the pandemic, we see people all over the world, the Chinese people, all the Chinese descent people, the community all over the world will send masks and PPE back to China and to support the community and the frontline workers. But it's a really tight community feeling, but also it's very individual, because everyone experiences it at different stage of their life, different stage of different time, locations, and coming from different backgrounds. So it's a sense of seeking the root back to the origin and of the identity, but also seeking to plan another route to where we are standing. So at this stage of COVID-19, experience this diaspora at this COVID-19, I want to talk through about it from 4 different perspectives. One is the race. Especially at this time, the anti-Asian or anti-Chinese racism is very concerning, even just in Vancouver, where we consider as a big city, very diverse and very intercultural. But there has been a few instances happen to attacks on the Asian seniors in the community, especially I have a studio in Chinatown that I don't have much access to at the moment. And I also work with the Chinatown transformation team to develop projects to implement in the community to develop and revitalize the public space. But recently we have been receiving a lot of reports and police incidents that on the bus or even bus stop or just random on the street, that people with Asian looking with masks would be attacked, but they are not necessarily Chinese or coming from China. I'm not saying it's okay to attack Chinese people in this case either. But in a particular instance, there was an indigenous lady, an indigenous woman in Vancouver wearing her mask and walking her dog. And she was allergic to the pollen and she sneezed, and someone else attacked her and yelling at her, "You Chinese, go back to China," when she has nothing to do with China and she just had the look of the minority. So in this case, racism, it doesn't not only come addressing to Asian or Chinese people, but it's addressing from a white privilege perspective onto the minority, where they don't see as a member of the community. So we would know, like we all consider America and Canada as an immigrant country, a very diverse, but for a lot of people, they are a nation. They think Canada and United States as a country are white. And I totally think racism is something that's really absurd and very socially constructed. But it's right. It's the very social construct that's so disturbing and turn the community against each other. So in this project, I also want to address this connection between the race and the intensity of the racism in the community, and also privilege. That's the second topic I want to talk about in this. Second aspect I want to talk about in this talk, the privilege to the land, a privilege to an identity, and the privilege to accessibility, especially at this time when a lot of things are digital, everyone's inside, and I think I'm really, really lucky to be able to trap inside a very safe and caring household. Whether it's back in China or here now with my roommate, an indigenous lady who's 72-years old. And I love her. But think about the people who doesn't access to technology, to clean water, to warm shelter, to food. And especially in Chinatown, where there are a lot of people on the street and who doesn't have access to medical or even just to test if or not they are infected with the virus. And also the privilege to have safety at this time. And because after China lifted the quarantine order, there were over 1,400 cases of domestic violence and even sexual abuse reported after the lockdown. And even at this time, we can see increasing domestic violence reported in the place. I was just checking the news this morning in BC, and it's really, really concerning. But also, it's also a time for us to reflect our privilege, even though we don't have a way to stop that from happening. But we can reflect what we are enjoying, what we have, and to really think what's the essential for the life. I also reflecting for my practice as well. And the third aspect is the identity. Because I'm a temporary immigrant in Canada, I have an expiration date for my identity, which is quite concerning for me, for a sense of I want to stay here, but one day I will expire in Canada. And it talks about this temporality and the permanency of a body and an identity. And it also really addressing the sense of the border, especially now when the airport is cutting off people. Oh, if you are no Canadian or PR, you cannot come back. It's the same as States. If you are not Canadian, if you are not American or the green card holder or PR, then you cannot go back to America if or not you are going back for study or working, or you're just going to be together with your loved ones. And that's we would think that's a necessary measurement to implement in the process of protecting or flatten the curve, stop the spread. But at the same time, it address people, it push people, especially minorities, into the stage where they don't have access or they don't have a place to return back to. And the last aspect I want to talk about is the language. Because in Vancouver, it's very often you walk on the street and you hear different language being spoken. But now it feels there's a fear of speaking one's mother tongue in Vancouver. It's related to the race, but when you're speaking Mandarin or if you're speaking my home dialect, the Hokkien, and I feel there's a sense of concern. When I walk on the street and talking to my family, I rather text other than speaking my language because I was wearing a mask, I look Asian, and I'm speaking a foreign language. There's a fear in the community for them to express them through the language and also the accent. And I used to, when I do talks or like presentation, I used to say, sorry if my accent make you don't understand my English properly, but I stopped doing that because I recognize my accent is not a disadvantage or a deficiency of my identity or myself, but it's a proof, it's a record of my experience of my identity. And also it also talks into the evolution of the language. As we know, English is not always the same way as it is, and now they are incorporating a lot of language, a lot of words and vocabulary from different languages. So I feel I have experienced this fear of speaking the language of my language, and also speaking English with an Asian accent. But I also want to use this to push the development of the community, of the language community, whether to have an involvement of language. That's too big to talk about, but to say it's okay that you speak with a big accent when you speak a language that's not your mother tongue, or even that's your mother tongue. If you want to speak it from a personality, I think it's okay, and I think it's encouraged, and because there are space between language that's translatable, but also not translatable. There are many words from my mother tongue that I could not find a word in English to express it, to talk about it, and to experience it. So there is a big dislocation, a big space that's not being talked about when I'm speaking a different language without access to speaking, or without the access or encouragement to speaking my own mother tongue, to experience myself and the community and the environment differently. And so at this time, especially at the age of COVID-19, through this project and talk about this project, I want to talk about how communities come together and apart, and our position and our individual positions in a community, whether it's very physical or it's a conceptual, or it's a conceptual community, or it's a virtual community even, and to talk about how, well, from my own perspective, how I, as an immigrant, as a temporary foreigner in a land where I found connection and disconnection, and also I found the intimacy and also community, sense of community and belonging. And at this age of COVID-19, while experiencing this communal collective trauma and also this individual experience, and through this project, I want to encourage everyone to think about resiliency and how we connect as a community, and also how as a community we can think of resisting this racism and reflect our privilege, to assess our identity, and to speak language that we all encourage to speak with respect, love, and understanding. And also to think how we can recover slowly from this new reality into not back to the old reality, but to think an alternative future where we can be stronger together. And that's my talk. If you have any questions, please unmute yourself and feel free to ask. And if you don't feel comfortable to talk to through audio, you can also type out on the chat. I will also put my email and also my website on the chat. And if you want to talk further, if you feel more comfortable to talk one-on-one, or to look at the work and talk specifically, and I'll be really happy to connect with you. So yeah, question time. Hello.
Thank you so much, Sidi. That was a great presentation. If someone have any question, please, any participation, any comment you want to do.
And also we have this blog that we put a link in the comment section, so we can follow the questions, the topics. That will be works for all the Nacovid sessions. So we can type there, continue the comments, and also to upload these videos, the pictures, some works about Sidi Chen that has already done before, and about this project that's the Ocean Beyond. Yes, it is, right? The Oceans Beyond.
Yeah.
Okay, so any questions?
I have a question for Sidi.
Okay.
Sidi, nice job.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias para este. So with like COVID-19 and the fact that it's a lot about the external environment has to change for people because they can't go out and everyone's like locked in. Has that affected your work, like the way that you think about your work? Because so much of it is about how the natural world interacts with your body, and like COVID-19 is this natural phenomenon, or at least this is what we all know so far, that is interacting with bodies, and it's your environment has to change because of the situation that we're all in across the world.
Yeah, so at this time, the COVID-19, when I was in China, I put a lot of attention into how the society react to how the government enforce the lockdown and other orders, and also how the society react to those orders, and how the society the social structure shifts. So I want to talk about the idea of censorship at this moment, and about the information accessibility, and also how people are reacting to the news and what's also being put on the news. But after I get back to Canada, since I don't have access to my studio space, I reconsider my practice or what's essential to my practice. So just a week ago, I made this work called Reach, where where I'll stand on a chair and try to reach my toe, because my work's a lot about the movement, and I'm an athlete. I play volleyball, I go for hike, I need to move, but with a quarter of my year being in lockdown, I haven't been able to move at all, and my body get very stiff, and I do stretches, and I feel my back is cracking like making popcorns, and I could not reach my toe. But in this work, I try again. It's also on my website too. You can watch it. I want to find this connection to my movement, to my feet again, and also find this connection to the roots where I'm standing, to see my position. So yes, it has changed my work a lot, because I couldn't work on my studio, I couldn't work in outside environment, but it's a really good opportunity for me to reflect on what's the essential for my work, what's the essence of my work, and what I really want to talk about. So far, I don't have anything that specifically talked about COVID-19. If some, and because I do more experienced work, so I might do interview with my friend who was in the French military base, but he later transported into a COVID-19 hospital, and he got infected with COVID-19 and recovered from it. So I might do some interview work with people who has experienced it, and also their support, and also the society. But my interest is more in the community and more in the environment, other than the physical virus itself. and because I think that people are more interesting than the virus itself. Thank you, Jen. I think Escobar has something to say.
Lily?
Hola.
Hola.
Estoy pensando todavía.
Yeah, she's thinking still. So also we will publish after that video with the translations in Spanish for people who it's well, to understand it better, all the English conversation. So yeah, it'll be after that. We'll publish also in this blog.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so thank you everybody.
Anyone else? Any question?
Or if you want to ask in Spanish, then maybe Alex or Gina can help translate.
Sure, also.
No, it's okay.
Just thinking.
Thank you.
Yeah, so for all the questions and to follow in the topics, the comments, we can follow this blog and to work. And that's like our workspace for that Nacovid that we're proposing. So maybe it is time to finish it. Thank you so much, Sidi Chen. We are really appreciative. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I'll be
once again, I put my email and my website on the chat. So if you want to connect later or to talk about project or even just want to bounce on ideas, and please feel free to do that. I'm really free. I don't have anything else to do at home. So and thank you very much for everyone for attending, and thank you for Alex and Gina for the invitation and to pick up this event. And also thank you for everyone who comes and be interested in my project. Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming. And then tomorrow we are having NetSacket. So you keep on with the social media so you can see calendar and all the list of all the program with the participants. There's very nice projects that we are going to present. Thanks a lot, everybody, again for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye
Check
bye.
out our talks as well.
Woo!
Thank you.
Yes.
In a few hours, see you. Okay, so thank you so much. We'll finish it.
Bye bye.